Hello and welcome to episode 9 of restoring the Kubota B2100 compact tractor. So today what we've got to do is lift the cab back onto the tractor. As you'll have seen in the previous video, I have totally restored this cab. It's all been repainted and all of the rust has now been eliminated. So here goes, we're going to go with the cab lift. It does take a while, it's a slow process, but what I've done is I've speeded the video up to make it a bit easier to watch. So here goes. It was a fairly tricky lift, but there we go. The cab is now in place and it is held in place with 4 bolts. I am still waiting for one of the cab mounts, but hopefully that's going to be here soon. You can see on the back I have already got one of the bolts in, and it essentially goes through a rubber spacer. I've just rewired the cab and also plumbed the coolant system back into it again for the radiator in the top of the cab for the heating, which means we can now put the coolant in. So this is all brand new coolant. Obviously we've got rid of the old stuff. This is going to maximise the engine performance and cooling, and in a second we're actually going to start the engine to make sure everything is fully functioning after it not running for probably 2.5 to 3 months. So yeah, this is going to be a good test. It's great to see that everything still works on the tractor. Now we're going to put the lights in the cab. These are brand new. It's a fairly easy and simple process this, it takes a little while because you have to take the wiring harness out of the old lights and then put them into the new ones. So it's simple enough, just time consuming. There we go, the brand new lights and indicators are installed into the top of the cab, making it look 10 times better than it was before. I do need to sort this wiring out down here. That's going to be done in a few minutes, but first of all I just want to show you these lights in operation. So we've got the hazard warning lights and also the marker lights, if you like, just for the top of the cab. There we go. And like I say, this has all been rewired, so it all works perfectly. Makes a massive difference. And the back as well. So we've got the tail lights, which also work very well. You may be wondering why I've just driven the tractor up on these ramps. Well, basically you can see into the four-wheel drive box there. There is no shaft or anything. This is because the previous owner disconnected it. I don't know why, but this is my brand new box of parts. So we've got all the shafts, all the covers, the housings and also the UJ to fit this all back together again. And what we're going to do first of all is just put a circlip on the end of this bearing to keep it in place. It was actually quite tricky to get the bearing on here, it's a very snug fit. And from what I can gather, the previous owner actually scrapped the entire four-wheel drive system just because of a bad bearing. So the shaft and bearing and seal now fit into this housing. The seal basically just presses in, that's all done. And that will all turn perfectly. And now what we need to do is fit the other covers which we've got. We've got the front shaft cover. In fact, there is about 3 or 4 covers in total. It's a very safe system. But this one's a fairly rubbery one. Some of them are rigid, some of them are metal, but this is flexible. Essentially, this one goes to the front of the tractor and then it's held in place with a hose clamp. I decided to buy every part necessary just because it makes it easier. I'm going to connect one end of this cover to the assembly that holds it, and then the other one connects to another metal cover, which in turn goes into the four-wheel drive box just to keep it all dust free and also for safety. If anybody for some reason puts their hand under there, it won't be taken off. So there we go, you can see down into it, we've got the bearing in there and the covers are in there in place. Everything is good. Next we have got the second cover I was talking about. This basically just presses over the top or inside the rubber one and then it's clamped in place. So you can see here, putting another hose clamp on, slide the metal cover into there and then clamp it. And this is essentially what it looks like before it's fitted to the machine. I haven't put everything on here because you do have to be under the machine to actually do it properly, but this gives you a general idea. Also take note of the UJ which has now been fitted. Everything is now complete and ready to be put into place. It was very hard recording underneath the tractor, so I've decided just to do it off screen, but there we go, everything is now finished. The whole assembly coming from the top where the gearbox is, coming all the way down to the four-wheel drive box, is all sealed and correctly installed. Hopefully it's going to outlive the tractor. So the next job is actually to move on to some cosmetic work. We do need to work on this bonnet because it is very scruffy. So first things first, we've got the harness, the wiring harness which goes into the headlights. This is going to come out of here. Basically there's just some clips which unplug and the wire will come out. So as you can see, the harness is now hanging down, which means it's not going to get damaged when I take the bonnet off. And we've got an R-clip here holding the bonnet in place. So what I like to do sometimes is use some pliers to get R-clips out because they can actually be very stubborn at times. Also I've just noticed the washer is actually on the incorrect side, so this bonnet's been off before. And there we have it. The bonnet is now removed. This is actually a very good time to clean underneath here because obviously we've got better access, so I'm going to do that later, but first things first, let's get working on this bonnet. I want to get it done and out of the way. The first step is to remove the headlight assembly at the front. It's actually very simple, just 3 bolts, they unscrew, take a spring off, and yeah, it just slides straight out. Very simple design. So all of the bolts have been removed, and that can now pull off. It does need a bit of a clean up, but otherwise I don't think much work needs to be done to that. Let's focus on the bonnet itself. It is very rusty. Right, before I do sand it down, just notice we've actually got the latch in here, so this again is a fairly simple contraption to remove. Once you've got it in the right place, just turn that around and it will just pull out. You have to just feed it through, but it is actually fairly self-explanatory. The only thing holding it in here is rust. But I'm hardly surprised, looking at the rest of the tractor. It was excessively rusty, and probably a lot of people wouldn't have even been bothered to restore this tractor. I have spent way too much time and money on it, that's for sure. The old decals are coming off because I've got some brand new decals ready to go on here. Some of you may think this is a shame taking these ones off, but honestly they're not very good. They are scratched, and some fool in the past has actually sprayed them with some orange paint, obviously they're trying to touch up. So yeah, they need to come off and they are going to be replaced with something much better. Now I've just started to sand stuff down with a flappy disc on a grinder, basically trying to get the most excessive rust off, but it seems the rust is worse than I thought. There are veins of rust going throughout this bonnet, so it's going to take much more work than anticipated. Wow, that was worse than I thought. Much worse. You can see the veins of rust. They've been eliminated, but we now need to blend the original paint into where the bare metal is. So I'm going to use a power sander for this. It should create the best effect. So there we go, sanding done. It does look much better. It's also got rid of some of the harsh effects which the grinder gave it. And now what we're going to do is go over it with some pre-cleaner, which will remove any unwanted dust or grease which is going to be on this surface, so that when we come to spray it, it isn't going to repel any of the paint, leaving a really bad effect. So yep, just going to go over it, and then it's time to do a bit of priming. So this is the primer. Once again I'm going to use the grey high build primer. I have had a pretty good experience with it. It seems to work very well, but it does require about 4 layers to get good coverage. So it does consume a lot, but it is worth it in the end. You get a good finish, and also it doesn't rust again. Well, that's 3 layers. I'm going to do another one because you can still see through it, but that is obviously much better than it ever used to be. I'm not too concerned about where the decals were because it was already pretty good paint there, but I have just gone over it lightly. The most important bit is the top because it's very exposed. A few days later, the painting is completed. 4 layers of Kubota orange on here. It's looking good, within reason, except a very friendly fly decided to land on it, so I'm just going to leave it until it's dry. Once it's dry I should be able to pick it off, and hopefully there won't be any evidence of it ever being there. But there we go, that's it. It's pretty much as I hoped it was going to be. It's certainly going to look better than it was. Which means we can now move on to the side guards, and one of these side guards isn't too bad. The other one is much worse, but still we are going to do a full job on both of these, so they match and so they both look very good. There is some surface rust, but nothing too excessive. This is the other side panel, and you can see it's actually worse around where the exhaust port is. The main reason for this is because basically it gets warm and then it gets cool, and also if it's raining at the time of it being used, of it raining, it does actually encourage the rust as well. So you need to sand it down, prime it properly, and then give it again a top coat. The stickers are also going to be changed. Once again I used the palm sander and it did a very good job of just getting the surface rust off and also blending the original paint into where it's bare metal. I've just primed it in the worst places and it's just drying. We should be able to paint it very soon. In this video it's probably going to be in the next few seconds. Just what I didn't want to happen. It's now torrential rain. The worst conditions for painting in. Still, I've just gone over it with the first layer, and you can see already it's made a huge difference to what it used to be. The panel further away from us is going to require more layers of paint now due to its original condition. A day later, and it is time to reveal what these panels actually look like. You've probably noticed I did have to cover up the plastic areas with the paper and the masking tape. Hopefully no paint got through, but if it did, it's not a problem. I can very easily clean this off. The paint is still a little bit tacky, but it is pretty much dry. So there we go. Oh yeah, some's got through. Like I say though, not an issue. This can be cleaned off very easily. And there we have it. So now they are totally dry, we're going to put the decals on. So I'm not really too worried about which goes on which side, because we've got the bi-speed turn label and also the power steering label. Originally the bi-speed turn label was on the other side, but yeah, it doesn't matter at all. We'll put it on this side this time. And we've also got on this side, because it is the side with the exhaust port, the sticker or the decal about the diesel engine runaway, basically telling you not to bypass the starter system, because you may not be able to shut the engine off again. I don't think anyone could argue with this though. New decals look fantastic. That's panel number 1 completed. It looks almost like new. Now for the other panel. We've got the power steering label to go on here. I'm trying to make sure it's totally level, because once it's on, there is no going back. Panels completed. So what do these look like on the tractor? There's only one way to find out. So I don't really want to say what this looks like, I'm going to let you decide. You can now see what it looks like on the tractor, so please rate this video depending on what you think of the finished front end of the tractor. I would love to know. Here's a view of it from a different angle, and everything's been reassembled, brand new bulbs in the headlights, all fully functioning. So that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and until the final video, I hope to see you again very soon. Bye for now.